The adventurous story begins with a little witch who is extremely beautiful. She is known as Little Witch, and like the other witches, she continuously tries to cast spells, but unfortunately, none of the spells work for her. She tries repeatedly, but the magic never seems to work properly. Little Witch is much younger and more beautiful compared to other witches. She lives at home with a crow named Raven, who talks a lot. Raven had guided Little Witch from the beginning on how she could become a good witch. Little Witch's lifelong desire is to become a good witch like the others, so she decided to attend the annual party of the witches, where witches from all over the world gathered for a celebration. However, Raven explains that the party is for very prestigious witches and only those who have an invitation can attend. Little Witch did not have an invitation, so going there would be very dangerous. Raven also mentions that perhaps Little Witch is too young, which is why the witches do not include her. Little Witch responds that she is over 100 years old, so why is she not accepted by the other witches? No matter what happens, Little Witch really wants to enjoy the annual party with the other witches. Meanwhile, in a town a little farther from the forest, a boy named Thomas is discussing witches and magic with his sister. They are both very excited to see witches as they have never seen one before, only heard stories about them. They are eager to see a witch at least once in their lifetime. It is known that once a year, all the witches gather together in the middle of the forest for a grand party, so Thomas and his sister decide to attend the party to see how the witches perform. Now, we see Little Witch sneaking out of her home at night on the day of the party, leaving without telling Raven, and heading towards the party on her enchanted broomstick. Little Witch was determined to see and enjoy the annual party of the witches at any cost. After traveling for a while, she arrived at the place where all the witches had set up camp. She was having a great time, believing that if she blended into the crowd, no one would recognize her. However, this was a misconception. As soon as she entered, a baggy-chinned witch spotted her and took Little Witch before everyone. The other witches soon realized that Little Witch had no invitation, yet she managed to come. They did not appreciate this audacity at all. Little Witch repeatedly asked why she was not being included, expressing her desire to become a good witch like them. The Queen of the Witches responded that she was not yet ready and was younger than the others, so she should leave. Little Witch insisted that she was over 100 years old, but the witches pointed out their own aged appearances with wrinkles and white hair, whereas she was too young to be a true witch. The witches decided that Little Witch should be punished for disrupting their party. They decided to take her enchanted broomstick and destroy it. They threw Little Witch's broom into the fire. Little Witch then asked what she needed to do to become like them. The Witch Queen handed her a large book of magic spells, explaining that it contained various spells that every witch should master. She told Little Witch that she needed to learn all the spells in the book within a year. If she succeeded, she could return to the party next year, take a test, and potentially join their club. If she failed, she would never become a witch. With no other option, Little Witch accepted the challenge. She took the large book and started heading towards the forest on the other side of her home. Since her enchanted broom had been burned, she could no longer fly. Due to its large size and weight, Little Witch moved very slowly. Despite having to wait on several paths through the forest, she finally managed to get home. The next morning, Little Witch told Raven everything that had happened. She explained that she needed to read and learn all the spells in the magical book within a year. Excitedly, when Little Witch opened the book, she found the spells inside were so complex that she had trouble even speaking them. It was clear that mastering the book would require a lot of hard work. Little Witch started studying the book diligently, though she hadn't managed to learn any spells yet. The next day, Little Witch went to a nearby town to buy a new broom. She was looking at various types of brooms to find one she liked. Meanwhile, Thomas, and his younger sister Bethany were seen at a candy shop. Bethany didn't have money to buy any candy, so she stood outside, staring at the candies longingly. Little Witch noticed that Bethany wanted candy, but had no money. Suddenly, as Bethany reached into her pocket, a candy magically appeared. She was astonished at how the candy had appeared. In reality, Little Witch had used her magic to give Bethany the candy. Bethany was a bit surprised by this, as the candy had appeared in her pocket as she left. Next, Little Witch approached a lady selling paper flowers. No one had bought any flowers from her yet, so Little Witch used her magic to turn all the paper flowers into real ones that emitted a pleasant fragrance. This attracted all the market-goers, and the flowers sold out quickly, providing a significant profit for the lady. Thomas and Bethany, standing nearby, started to suspect that Little Witch might be a witch. Little Witch then bought a broom for herself and used her magic to start flying. On her way back home, Little Witch enjoyed flying, even though she was a bit unsteady. She had a great time with it. Upon reaching home, she began to chant spells continuously. One day, Thomas and his younger sister Bethany got lost in the middle of the forest. They kept walking, hoping to find a way out. They had come into the forest to collect fruit, but after wandering for a long time, they found themselves near Little Witch's house. They knocked on the door, wondering if anyone was inside. Little Witch approached them from behind and captured them. Normally, other witches would capture and harm human children, but Little Witch had a deep affection for children and had no intention of harming anyone. Thomas and Bethany recognized Little Witch from the market, where she had performed magic. Little Witch, very pleased, told them that if they were hungry, she could prepare some delicious food for them. She invited Thomas and Bethany inside and used her magic to make tasty food. Thomas and Bethany enjoyed the meal immensely. Bethany then asked Little Witch if she was a witch. Thomas apologized, saying his sister was always asking such questions. Little Witch confirmed that she was indeed a witch with various magical powers. She demonstrated some of her powers by performing different tricks, including lifting and flipping the dining table. Little Witch showed them magic corresponding to what Thomas and Bethany said. Suddenly, an old witch arrived at Little Witch's house, observing her performance. The old witch began noting everything Little Witch was doing. Little Witch quickly hid Thomas and Bethany in a cupboard so the old witch wouldn't see them. The old witch asked Little Witch what she had learned that day. Little Witch said she hadn't learned anything from the book yet. However, when the old witch saw the dining table hanging upside down inside the house, she realized that Little Witch had definitely used some magic. She was telling Little Witch that there was a rule in their place that no one practices magic on Fridays, as Fridays are considered sacred days for them. The old witch was writing these observations in a diary to report to the senior witches. Suddenly, the old witch noticed a basket, which gave her a sense that there were humans in Little Witch's house. She asked Little Witch if there were any humans present. Little Witch quickly made an excuse and said there were no humans there. The old witch, satisfied with the inspection, left. After the old witch departed, Little Witch quickly took Thomas and Bethany out of the cupboard and told them to leave the forest as soon as possible. She warned them that if the old witch found out about them, she would harm them. Raven was also scolding Little Witch for her actions. Little Witch sent Thomas and Bethany outside and started fixing things. Thomas and Bethany were halfway through the forest on their way home when the old witch saw them. She realized that these two children must have been inside Little Witch's house, which Little Witch had not informed her about. The old witch was very shocked by this discovery. Meanwhile, Little Witch continued to study all the spells from the book, gradually learning many kinds of magic. Over time, she became very skilled. Months passed and winter arrived. The place was covered in snow, and the temperature had dropped significantly. One day, while Little Witch was strolling in town, She saw two troublemaking boys harassing a girl. Little Witch used her magic to freeze the boys' feet so they couldn't move. However, the boy whom they were tormenting was very sad and started to leave. Little Witch decided to follow him to understand his real problem. Upon meeting him, the boy sadly explained that his father gambled a lot and often spoke badly to him. Understanding the boy's problem, Little Witch decided to help. She went with the boy to a club where his father was gambling with others. Little Witch used her magic to completely destroy the ball thrown by the boy's father, which had passed through the wooden board. The people present started to believe that the man had cheated. Consequently, they threw the girl's father out and banned him from the place. After a while, the boy went to his father and helped him up. The father realized that he had made a big mistake by gambling, and from that day on, he would neither gamble nor scold his daughter. Little Witch had helped the girl in a very good way, and now she could live happily with her father. They left, but the old witch, who had been watching everything from the side, was puzzled as to why Little Witch was helping humans instead of focusing on her own tasks. Little Witch had read almost half of the book and tested the spells. The old witch told Little Witch that the annual witch function was approaching, and before that, she had to demonstrate all the spells from the book to join the witch's party. Little Witch replied that she had put in all her effort and had almost memorized all the spells. She would be ready to perform in front of the witches soon. A few months later, the day arrived when Little Witch was prepared to recite all the spells to the other witches. She entered a large cave where the witches gathered and began calling out to them. Gradually, all the witches gathered there. After all the witches had arrived, they asked Little Witch to recite the spells. Little Witch had memorized the spells very well and was reciting them accurately while performing the magic. Seeing this, the witches were impressed that a new member would be joining their club. The old witch was also present and observed everything. After Little Witch completed all the spells perfectly, the old witch announced to everyone that Little Witch was a very good friend of theirs. I kept an eye on her for the entire year, and then I found out that she interacts well with these people and helps them from time to time. Hearing this, Head Witch said that interacting with humans in this manner was completely against our rules. But Little Witch said that she had no idea about this and questioned what was wrong with making friends with humans. The witches declared that any sorceress or witch who interacts with humans would be considered among the bad witches, and if she did this, she would not be able to join our club. Little Witch was very sad because she wanted to join the other witches. Then it was decided that she would have to convert the children into stone so that we could be sure that she would no longer interact with humans. If she did this, she could join our club. Little Witch was completely confused about how she would convert the children into stone. She had returned home, with many thoughts swirling in her mind, unable to figure out how she would accomplish this difficult task. Little Witch became very angry with Raven because Raven had made her a good witch and had taught her to be kind to humans. In her anger, Little Witch expelled Raven from her home. The next day, after much thought, Little Witch arrived in town and decided to convert Thomas and Bethany into stone so she could join the witches' club. Little Witch entered her home and began reciting the spell to turn Thomas and Bethany into stone. The children were very scared, but Little Witch's words faltered midway because she had always been kind and couldn't bring herself to hurt anyone. Little Witch then sat down and explained everything to Thomas and Bethany about how the witches' heads had given her the task of converting them into stone. But Thomas and Bethany said that her decision to help them despite the witches' orders was what made her different from the other witches. They encouraged her to do what she felt was right. Little Witch then stood up and created a circle around Thomas and Bethany. Little Witch created a barrier around Thomas and Bethany's location so that no other witch could enter. As soon as Little Witch left her home, Old Witch appeared in front of her. Old Witch had discovered that Little Witch had not completed her task, so she decided to personally go and convert Thomas and Bethany into stone. Little Witch had returned home, aware that she had memorized all the spells written in the magical book. However, many of these spells were unknown to the other witches. Therefore, Little Witch decided to read through all the spells and then burn the entire book to destroy the spells and prevent the other witches from learning them. Little Witch took the large magical book to the annual function where the other witches were enjoying themselves. She started reciting the spells in front of everyone. The witches were very impressed with how well Little Witch had remembered everything. However, Little Witch began to read a different type of spell that would gather all the magical books of witches worldwide. She wanted to burn all these books, but when she searched her pocket for the matchbox, she realized it was missing. Little Witch must have forgotten it at home. The other witches realized Little Witch's intentions, so they stepped forward to stop her. Meanwhile, Little Witch, while reciting a spell from the book, converted Head Witch into a frog. The spell worked so effectively that she turned all the witches present into small frogs. Little Witch had practiced the spells so well over the year that she had gained superior knowledge compared to the other witches. However, Black Witch was unaware that Old Witch was still secretly watching. Eventually, Raven managed to reach Little Witch with the matchbox in her mouth. Raven said that she had known all along that Little Witch had left the matchbox at home. And now, with the help of this matchbox, you can burn the entire book. Little Witch was very happy with Raven and embraced her, showing that they had become good friends again. Without delay, Little Witch set fire to all the gathered magical books, creating a massive bonfire. This large fire could be clearly seen from Thomas and Bethany's home. In front of Little Witch, Old Witch appeared, and she was transformed into a pig. Little Witch was using the magical spells very effectively, leaving no witch unscathed, and soon had set fire all around. Little Witch and Raven enjoyed the night thoroughly, as they had succeeded in eliminating all the evil witches in the world. Little Witch then returned home with Raven and began living with her. She also taught Raven the recitation of spells. Little Witch decided that she would maintain good relations with humans and help them in times of need. With that, our story ends here.